Hello. In this video, we are going to now look at creating the user interface for your application that you have created. So in my previous video, we looked at our conceptualization document where we selected a certain scenario, collected the data, and eventually we had a function list and we wanted to design the user interface. We had made a rough draft of what the screens are going to look like. I have two screens. One is the registration app screen and the register screen itself to enter the details. Now I'm going to create using Netbeans JFrame these exact screens. So go to your Java application and you will go to your source packages or whatever package you have might have created. Right click and you create a JFrame form. You need to name your user interface class. I'm going to call mine main screen, for example. And here you get an empty template of your JFrame. You may want to stretch it out by dragging to the size that you want. Keep note of this dimensions, like it is about 1011 by 669. Okay. Then, before we even start, there might be certain default values that you want to set in your JFrame. So, for example, right click, go to the properties, and you will see certain features such as the location. So that is basically where does so when you run your application and what location on your screen does it pop up. So it's set as x0 y0, which will be in the middle of the screen. Then you can enter a minimum size. You can resize, whether you allow the user to resize. I'm going to untick it so that the user is not able to resize the form. Then the size of the screen, if you want, you can change. There is a minimum size that the screen must open with, so I'm going to keep it as the same value that the screen is right now at. So it's 1011, so I copy it and I copy it over here so that that's the minimum size of the screen. It doesn't get smaller than this. And then we will have to now start putting controls from this right palette window. So as per our design, we have to have a title, which is actually you can put in a label and into the center of the screen. Once you put in something, it's right click, you may edit the text. I'm going to call it registration application. You're welcome to change the font, etc., of the screen of these controls by right clicking again and changing the foreground. So that shows you what is the text going to be in. I'm going to choose a blue sort of color, and then you can change the font itself. Okay, so we may want to change it to, let's have a look. Need to find something that is suitable because I want to keep this font uh, consistent across my application. So I'm going to take Constantia, and this is because it's a heading, we want it to be bold and the size must be bigger than this. Okay, and let's close and let's have a look. Okay, it didn't make the size that much bigger, but I think for now I'm going to leave it like that. Then I'm going to add some buttons that I, as per my design in the document that was created earlier. So on again, you go on to your palette window and you find a button. This button, I drag it over here, maybe to the center of the screen, and the the standard says that you need to change by default the name of this button control is J button 1, J button 2, etc. By the standards usually want us to use a prefix for buttons, it's BTN, and I'm going to call it BTN absentee list, right? Today's list, for example. So because I'm tell you why I renamed it like this, because this button is to show you today's absentee list. So that's that. And I might have want to now change the text font and the size for it. So you go back to the one that you chose for this page and use the same one. I remember correctly, it was this. I'm going to make this bold and make the size slightly bigger so it can stand out. Okay, so that's the one button, and I will copy this button and paste it again because I don't want to now edit the fonts etc twice. And then I'm going to edit the variable name for this, which this one will be button view all, and the text would now change to view all the information that you have. Good practice again suggests that your buttons should have the same sizes, so try and keep them. And another shortcut to do it is click on both of them, and you can select same size, which is same width, same height, etc. Okay, so my buttons are done. Now I want to put in a group area, but let's so I will actually now move on to the search section. So I will put a label to say, okay, what are we searching for? So I will align it over here. The variable name is LBL date, for example, and the text will be enter the date. I'm actually asking the user to enter the date. Then we want to allow the user to select a date. For this, I'm using a J, day, J date chooser control. I will put it over here, maybe make it slightly bigger. Enter the date. Let's fix the font for our label and copy and paste it for the rest of the labels. So I will change the font to the same one I had earlier. Size is 12. Close. It's very small. When I run the application, I might want to, if it doesn't suit, I will want to change it maybe. But right, next value that you want to enter is to change the variable name. This is the label for the user to enter their name, and I will change the variable name as well as the variables text, align it nicely, and for the user to enter their text, I'm going to put in a text field control, align nicely with the other controls, and this should be good enough for them to enter their surname. Change the variable name with the prefix txt surname, for example, and the text must be empty. We want the user to enter their surname over here. And once they have entered these two things, they will want to press a button to now say, okay, we want to view based on what we have chosen here. So for that, I'm going to copy the same buttons that we have created over here and paste it and change the variable name to button view and the text to simply view or search or something like that, because basically it is a search functionality. So the result from all these must appear in what we call a text area. So I've dragged a text area from your palette. Text area is basically a large text box. So that's what I'm going to put over here for the user to show or see the result of their actions. So we've designed the screen. If you want to have a quick look at how the screen looks, you may go to the source. So this is the design view of your screen. This is the source or the code behind. It is a good idea not to delete anything from here, because if you delete, your application may not run. So right click, run the file, and you will see your screen's default location is over there, and it has appeared based on your design. So I think this font size for all these things needs to be slightly bigger. I will edit that. You can see the alignment of the text box is not really proper in terms of the calendar control, sorry, the date control above. So that also needs to be fixed. So we shall fix those two things just now. But at least the screen works. The second screen that we were designing needs to be looking like needed to look like something like this. For this, you can see we need a label, a few labels to show the user what to do, a date control, a combo box, a radio button to say yes or no, another radio button, a text area maybe for the note details to be added, and the add button for the insert to happen when the user clicks on this. So I'll be designing using the same concept. So for that, we go on to our project. We create again a new JFrame. This one is going to be called register screen. The other one was called marine screen. I'm going to call this one register screen. Page appears. I'm going to make it according to the size I might want. A label for the center of the screen. If you want the same kind of label structure from here, let's copy and paste it here, so you don't have to redo the formatting. So we can edit the text to say register screen, and then that appears over here. Then we can have the labels from the other screen again. Hopefully we must make the font slightly bigger before we copy it over so as not to. Okay, let's make that 24. Enter name. Yep, that's a bit big. And then edit here as well to 24. Okay, close. Quite a large align them nicely so it's all and even for the buttons, you can select all three controls and change the property once off. So if the labels were of size 24, I think the buttons need to be slightly bigger than this, and then we have to move them to the center of the screens. Oh, everything has changed its size, sorry. Okay, so view over here, view absentee list, view everything, and then that's that. So again, the font for the label must be, the main title must be really big, much bigger than all the other controls, because it's the central uh, label showing you what your GUI, your application is, the screen is for. Okay, so I've adjusted this. Hopefully that will be good enough. So I will capture the controls that we want maybe from the screen already, because I still want a date control and a, this screen does not need to be so big, because it's simply to enter the values and add date. So, and just to check LBL date in the screen, and this is yeah, it's a date picker, so I'm going to call it DTP, or a date chooser. I'm going to call it date, and I'm pretty sure I didn't rename the control over here as well. Yeah, so DTP date over here. It's okay to name the controls the same in two different screens, because it's not in the same class in a way. So here we have to say enter the student, or you can even say select the student, because we are going to provide the students list in a form sort of combo box control. So I drag a combo box over here and make it quite big. The list of students will appear one after the other at the bottom. For that, you right click. You can see the model right now is set to item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4. So just as an example, if you run this file, you will see those four items are the ones that are appearing, but that's not how we want our screen to come up with. So we want our screens to come up with a list of students that we have already present in our database. So for that, we will write code to populate this combo box with the data present in the database. So we may just as well remove these items from here for now and populate it later. After we select the student, we want to say whether the student is present or not. So we will say present. We're going to basically enter whether the student is present. And for that, I'm going to use the control called a radio button. And I'm going to put one radio button here. The variable name must be RAD yes, for example, to say present. And the text is yes. And the same control can be used to say yes or no. So I'm going to change the text of this one to no, and the name of this one to RAD no. And then obviously the font needs to be changed because it's not the same font that we have used for the rest of the screen. Think about 14 would be a good size. Okay, so yes or no. And we can basically use these same three controls for the note, whether there is a note present. So for that, I'm going to edit the variable name to LBL note over here, and the text to note yes or no. And we may want to change the radio button's name to note yes and note no to identify which one is for which one. One is the yes, the plain yes or no controls where to say whether they are present. The note yes or no is for to see whether there is a note attached with the student. Then we want a text area to give the details of the note. So we'll add this over here, align it nicely, change the variable name to txa note, and we want to have a label to show the user to enter. So LBL note details, for example, and the text will be note details. So hopefully that allows the user to understand what needs to be entered, ensure the alignments are nice and appealing to the user. And lastly, a button will be created over here with a variable name btn add, and the text on this button should be add. Okay, we don't have a nice, let's actually copy this button over from there and delete this one and paste it over here. It's quite a large font for the screen now. Okay, and change the variable to btn add, and the text must be okay, text must be changed to add, so user can click on it to actually insert. So I'm going to copy this from over here and put it in the screen as well. Oh, edit the text to register. Okay, Yeah, as mentioned earlier, you may want to set the preferred size of the screen and the minimum size. Minimum size will be the same as what we have over here, so it is not changed unnecessarily, and you want to untick the resizable option to not allow the user to change. Okay, so I just changed it to 587 525 587. So just copy it back into the minimum size. Okay, so for now we have done this, and we also need to have a control in your main screen to allow you to navigate to your next screen. For that, we might want to extend the screen slightly and or add a button just like this one to say go to the next screen. The change the variable name to btn register because it's supposed to take you to the register screen and take it to next, which is to, or you can re-edit it to say register register, which will take you to the next screen. So this is basically the design of your two screens based on the rough draft that you had created. Again, it's one's choice about the backgrounds, the fonts, the colors, etc. Feel free to experiment with the properties and design a nice, appealing, a decent user interface. But what you need to note is to ensure that the variable names of the controls are changed and the texts are actually changed to show the user what the purpose of the screen is. Thank you.